Hello, everyone. You are listening to the C Squared podcast with Corey and Curtis. We are by ourselves today, unsupervised, not the greatest of situations, but you know what? We're going to run with it. And today we're going to be talking to you about Spotify, growing your Spotify playlists, all that fun Spotify stuff. Because, well, I mean, it's a question we get a lot. How do we grow our Spotify? And so
Number
here we are to answer things.
so here's the number one thing that you need to do, like with your Spotify, is you need to make sure, obviously, that you're fully set up to use Spotify. That's the number one thing. So like that means in terms of like your social media, your Spotify for artists, the whole nine yards.
Mhm.
First of all, I think one of the key points, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that they need to have their full Spotify for artist profile 100% up to date. I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
key.
Everything needs to be up to date. You need to have a decent band image in the cover shot. You need to have a good avatar that'll capture people's attention. It's probably a good idea to set up an artist pick if you have something that you want to promote. So yes, make sure your Spotify for artists is set up. You're using it. You're keeping it updated. You've got a nice up-to-date bio. All of that fun jazz.
So first of all, like you mentioned right there, is you need to make sure you got a bio up to date. So if you don't have a bio up to date, or you have a shitty bio or a not very well done bio, you need to get someone to write the bio for you. Fortunately, Corey is a journalist and an English major, and she knows all about writing about bios. So if you need a bio to be written, you can hit us up, and either Corey or Holly can do it. Holly as well is a journalist, and she's got degrees in writing and stuff like that. So both of them are absolutely stellar at doing that. So if you do not have a bio, hit one of us up. We will sell you a bio, because you do not want to have a lousy bio on your Spotify, because people look at that, and if you look stupid, it's just people probably aren't going to click through. Next thing on Spotify for artists, and I'm doing this from memory, I should have had it in front of me while I was doing this, but you also need to make sure that all of your social mediums are up to date and that you have all the links on your Spotify. So Corey, let's turn this over to you for a brief second. Can you kind of explain what we mean when we say you got to have your socials up to date?
That means your bio is up to date.
Yep.
Your band images have your current members in them.
Mhm.
That's one thing that I don't understand, but it happens a lot that people just stick with whatever like their oldest band photo is. Don't do that. And that you're consistently posting. That is the biggest one right there, is that you are consistently adding new stuff, and not even new stuff, but just stuff in general.
I
Be
agree.
it photos of you guys hanging out,
Yeah.
behind the scenes type stuff, memories. Like a year ago, we were at such and such show. That's totally fine and easy content. So just, yeah, make sure that you're consistently posting.
I agree. And the specific social platforms you want to have available to link on there are your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, and I think there's a spot for YouTube. Is there not, or am I mistaken on that? I forgot.
Let's see here. Yeah, there is Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Wikipedia, and no YouTube though.
Okay, never mind on that then. So
YouTube is a competitor for Spotify.
that would make sense. So you want to make sure that's all up to date as your very first thing. And the reason why is because if people click through to your Spotify profile and they just see something like there's no band image, it's like, just a head or whatever, that little image of just like a head, or like there's no information about the band, people just aren't going to click through. There was an example the other day, just as an aside. I listened to a band, I think they were called Plague. I think it was Plague. I don't know if you've heard of them, but there was a band called Plague that showed up. It was like a recommended thing by Spotify. I really liked them. They had no social link. I was trying to find out how to buy their album, but there was no social links to them. And I'm not joking you. There's like 100 different bands called Plague. I think it was Plague was the name. And I couldn't find a Bandcamp. I couldn't find their socials. They didn't have any of it listed. So right there, that band right there, they lost someone from following them on socials and buying their stuff just because they didn't have anything on their Spotify for artist profile.
Here's another one of like when I want to share somebody on my socials and you don't have your Instagram, your Twitter, and your Facebook all set up, you're
Yep.
just costing yourself, more fans because I can't tag you, I can't share you. It's a pain in the ass.
And it's especially needed when you have a band name that isn't unique. I know we talked about Burial a couple weeks ago.
Maybe another one that would be a non-unique band name.
Yeah, Plague or something like that. If you have a non-unique band name, especially, you want to make sure that all your socials are in the Spotify, because believe it or not, sometimes people want to buy your merch. Sometimes people want to buy your music from Spotify. So if you can make it easy for people to do that, you definitely want to do that. So what else do they need to have updated with their socials, Corey, or is that a good primer?
I think that's a good primer. I mean, we've gone over social media before, and that's not necessarily the topic of this particular podcast, but it is a good foundation. You need to have it all set up.
Exactly. So, okay. So now let's get into how to get the listens here. So, I mean, obviously the very first thing that you need to do is you need to let people know that you're on Spotify. And you can do that you can get a link tree. You can put a link to your Spotify in the link tree, and you can make sure that that link tree is on your Facebook. You can make sure it's on your Instagram. You can make sure it's on your YouTube. You can make sure it's on your Twitter. Everywhere where you're at, you should have the Spotify in your link tree. You can also make posts every once in a while telling people to follow you on Spotify. Again, this is content that you can use. You do that on all your different social platforms. And I would suggest doing that maybe once or twice a week. How do you feel? Or not twice a week, once or twice a month. How do you feel about that?
Twice a month is good. Just to, everybody knows logically that you're there.
Yeah.
But they don't always act upon that. I mean, I know that there are some people out there that say, don't post now streaming everywhere, because people already know that you're now streaming everywhere, but it's a prompt to get people to actually go to those places.
Yep.
So yeah, I still think it's a good idea, even though people do already know that they can find you, especially if you have a name like Burial or Plague or, Haunted or Bones or just something that's like super common. It's still a good idea to post your links, because when people go search for you on Spotify, they're going to pull up all 500 other bands with the same name. So
yeah, this is true too. Okay, so band's now got their socials updated. Band is ready to go. What's the next step, Corey?
So the thing that drives Spotify listens more than anything else, more than any ads, more than anything, is new content. So it would be, creating a new video, a new song, a playthrough, anything along those lines, even if it doesn't directly link to your Spotify, will boost your Spotify listens. A prime example of this is the band that I manage, Achiavel. Prior to me coming on, they had spent money on Spotify ads and got like bubkiss. It was an abysmal ad performance, which again, if you're going to be spending money on any kind of ads, hire somebody that knows what they're doing, because ads are tricky and the algorithm always changes and what makes them work changes. So get somebody who actually knows what they're doing. Don't try to do it yourself.
And I would like to point out, we sell this service. Corey does this, and that is the person she is referring to that you should be hiring is Corey Westbrook, not anyone else. Just want to point that out. Sorry, Corey, go ahead.
No, you're fine. So that's the thing that's going to get you the most listens, is actually just creating something. So, and then blasting it out to the world. And make sure that wherever you're blasting it, so say you create a new video, you make a new video and you release it, put your Spotify link in the description.
Yep.
Because people will then go there.
Yep.
But that's what's going to boost you the most, is that, and then blasting it out to the world.
Cool. So, all right. So now define the different types of content that can help. So playthrough videos, they can help. I know that.
Yes. So music videos, duh. Playthrough videos, yes. Honestly, you really want to get a lot of attention on your band, do a cover song. You don't even have to put it on Spotify, but that'll get you a ton of attention and people will then start checking you out. So, and just being consistent on your social medias and keeping yourself top of mind at all times will help keep your, even if you're not getting a boost, it'll keep your numbers from dropping. Because that's the other thing that a lot of people will do is they'll release something, blast it out for like a week, and then disappear.
Yep.
Or they'll do their 3-month, PR push and blast everything out to everybody in the world for those 3 months and then disappear for 2 years until the new album comes out and their numbers will plummet. So don't disappear at the end of whatever it is that you're promoting. Just keep consistently posting and consistently putting out things to keep people engaged so that even if they're not going up, they're also not going down.
That's a key thing. Do not ever want anything going down. If you can help it, you never want your numbers to go down in absolutely anything that you're working on. Okay, so let's just talk about this for a second about the video views. So you've run ad campaigns for YouTube, and that's your specialty, is that you run ad campaigns for YouTube. Now, you found that when you do a YouTube campaign, the Spotify numbers go up as well, right?
Yes.
Can you kind of explain how this works? Because most people think, like you said, that they have to do a Spotify ad campaign or they have to do a Facebook ad campaign to drive people to Spotify. But in fact, you found that if you do a YouTube ad campaign, it'll also drive traffic to Spotify.
It's because when you're running a YouTube ad campaign, you get the visual element that really strikes with people and sticks in their brains. And then they then go travel to Spotify to save you to their playlists or to go like your Spotify or something like that for when they're listening in their car and they can't watch the videos. It's all about recall. I don't know if people understand or know that term, but it's the likelihood that somebody will remember your name after seeing your ad. And on YouTube, the recall is a lot higher than it is for strictly audio ads or even Facebook ads, because Facebook anymore is just a bunch of white noise.
Yeah. No, 100.
Tunes it out.
Yeah. So, okay. So do you have, I don't want you necessarily go into specific numbers, but can you give some examples from Akiaville, how that worked, where you did the YouTube ad and then the Spotify numbers went up?
Yeah. So I just set up their video as a YouTube ad and targeted specific audiences.
Yeah.
I started broad and then whittled my way down to the ones that identified with the ad the most and went where I wanted them to go. And while the video ads were running, because I wanted people going to Spotify afterwards, the Spotify link was the #1 link in the video description. And I made that the case on all of their videos, because when you're running a YouTube ad, you get something that's called earned views. So that's somebody, after they see their ad, they go and watch another video on that channel.
Yep.
And so I made sure that the Spotify link was the #1 link on all of those videos, because that's where I wanted them to go afterwards.
Cool. So what was the kind of like the correlation, like in terms of like, what would you say the percentage was of people that would actually click through to Spotify after watching the video as a general rule? I know this is
probably about half of them would click through to Spotify, or they would click through to their Bandcamp, which was the second link.
Now, is that normal, would you think, or was that just Akiaville for getting the 50%, just so people get an idea?
That's what happens when you target really, really, really well to the audience. Now, that wasn't the click-through rate of going to their website. Going through to the website, the like visit advertiser button, that was much, much lower, because nobody ever likes to click those.
Yeah.
But the traffic, you could see them going into their Spotify or into their Bandcamp as the ads played. But that particular visit advertiser button, much, much lower. When somebody clicks on an ad, I mean, you're lucky to get 1%. But yeah.
But you do get, as a general rule, if you run YouTube ads, you will get more people to your Spotify, what you're saying.
You will get more people to your Spotify.
Okay.
And then
so,
there's the other caveat of, doing PR with all of this.
Yeah, of course, obviously. But again, like if you're going to be doing PR and you don't have your Spotify set up, you're not really going to get Spotify views. You're probably going to get people going to your Bandcamp if it's Bandcamp that you're pushing. I guess just as a brief thing before we go on any further, One thing that we do get asked about is if people should be targeting for Bandcamp or Spotify, and I always say both. But the difference is that with Bandcamp, that usually drives sales, while with Spotify, that's increasing your awareness and your listens. So they're different things, and I always think you should be targeting the both of them at the same time and not just necessarily focusing on one. But at the same time,
that's where Linktree comes in handy.
Yeah.
Having a Linktree set up where people can go wherever it is that they want to go. You can do a free one that's just on Linktree. If you want to get super fancy and have a really nice looking one, go to Tone Den. That's a really good place to set one up, where you can embed a video at the top. It'll have your album art. It'll have the logos of where everybody's gonna go. It's just a really nice way to set it up. I use Tone Den for Achiavel.
Cool.
So, and it's also free.
Can you tell people what Tone Den is? Because a lot of people probably don't know what that is.
Tone Den, I mean, it's just another music marketing platform that you can use to disseminate your music wherever it is you want people to go. So you can, it's basically like Linktree, but it looks a lot nicer. And you can have some, you can set up custom links. You can have wherever people can buy your stuff. You can, I mean, yeah, it's a really powerful music marketing tool that puts all of your music in one place. I really like that you can embed a video or stream a track right at the top. So people can, without clicking on anything, go through and listen to something before they click on the links below.
Cool. So we've covered advertising. We've covered Spotify for artists, basically. So now organic growth. I mean, there's other ways of getting plays, but let's talk about some organic growth. Can you give the top tip that you have for organic growth?
Create content.
Well, we went over create content. How about another one other than create content?
Getting on playlists.
Talk about that.
So getting on playlists is probably the easiest way and the most cost-effective way of getting higher numbers on Spotify. So when you have created your new content and you go into Spotify for artists, every single time you have a new single or a new album or anything coming out, you need to pitch it to the Spotify editors. And I know they say 2 weeks in advance, but don't do it any less than 4 weeks in advance, or they're probably not going to see it. The minimum 2 weeks, but you want to give them at least 4, because they are getting millions upon millions of pitches every single day. So first thing is to get those Spotify editorial playlists by doing that. And that's free, and it's one button click. Just do it. It's really, really simple. The other thing you can do is to pitch to specific user generated playlists, which again, another service that we offer, doing that. Because it is kind of hard to find their contact information sometimes. But other times you can just look them up on Spotify or on Google. Just Google metal playlist, metalcore playlist, dark wave playlist, and it'll bring up a bunch of user generated playlists. And you can reach out to those people yourselves, hire a professional to do it, to get you on these playlists. And those are a very, very powerful tool. Achiavel, for example, their Spotify grew 1,600% when we started employing all of these steps. They went from 2,000 listeners to like 4,000. Or not 2,000, 200 to 4,000.
Yeah.
Really, really quickly. And even though their campaign is over, they still haven't dropped a whole hell of a lot. They're still way, way above where they were. So because they're consistently still putting out things, even though it's not the giant push from before their album came out.
Yeah. One of the things that people have to realize is that like the organic growth, it can take a lot of time. It can be effort intensive, labor intensive to do it. But if you want to get onto the different playlists, you will have to put in a bunch of time and effort, and you are going to have to actually do the steps to do it. Most people are not just going to discover your music and put you on a playlist. It can happen, but it's very, very, very rare that happens. Another thing that we have not discussed yet for organic growth is making your own playlist and putting your own song. That was what?
That was my next thing.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hear Corinne talk about user-generated playlists for themselves, or band-generated playlists rather.
So one thing that people get confused by is, why can't I create a playlist on my Spotify for artists? You can't create a playlist actually on your artist profile. You do need to set up a separate profile that it can have your artist's name. I've done this for Akiavel, but it's a personal profile rather than an artist profile. So that is step one. You create the playlists in that personal profile. You can start by just doing favorite songs from each of the members. I mean, if you have 3 to 5 members, that's 3 to 5 playlists. You always want to put one of your own songs in there. I usually put it as the second song, and then just create, these are our favorite songs. This is what we listen to. Blast it out on your social media. Get your fans engaged with you. They'll start to share those playlists, and your song will travel with all of the other songs. Another key thing when you share these is tag the other bands. Because I mean, a medium-sized band may share that playlist too, just as a thank you for including them. A bigger band than you, I mean, it happens a lot. And then, so yeah, create those. And then once they're created on that private profile, go into your Spotify for artists and pin them in the artist playlist section. So that's down kind of at the bottom of your profile.
Yep.
You just copy the link and pin them there. And whatever one you're promoting the most at that time, put it into your artist picks, so it shows up right at the top when people go to your Spotify.
Totally. So there's a couple things I want to point out with this is that you should always have a graphic with your playlist, because you can put any type of graphic you want. Corey did a graphic for, I believe, every member of Akiavel for the playlist that they did. Just a band member photo, if I'm not mistaken, and it just kind of said Jay's Picks or whatever, or Ori's Assault.
Yeah, it was their promo shot, the members' individual promo shot. I put the logo on it and then the title of the playlist.
That's right. And then also you want to have a description. You can put a description. I think it's not that many characters, but it's enough.
No, and what I did here, I can just read the one that I did for one of the members here. Let me just pull it up.
No worries.
It's something really, really simple. Oh, come on. Really? It's not loading. So yeah, here we go. The vocalist for Akiavel shares her favorite songs. Make sure to follow at Akiavel on all social media platforms.
Cool. Very simple. Yeah, very, very simple. So, so what you do then is, so you do one of those, and then what you want to do is, when you share it, always make sure that you're tagging each band. I know that Akiavel did that, and they got shared by, I think it was Carnifex on Instagram, which boosted them quite a bit just by that one action. And as a note, they were not intending for that to happen. It just randomly happened because, most of the time you're not going to get a big band sharing you, but it can happen. Same thing happened to us with the C Squared playlist yesterday. I tagged Jessica Pimentel that her band was on our playlist. She liked it and retweeted it. I was not necessarily, you don't know if that's ever going to happen. So you always want to make sure that you tag the person, because then you can also get in front of a bigger audience if it's a bigger band at the same time. But again, that's not always 100% going to happen, but it's worth trying. So you should also be sharing it on all of your platforms, so not just Facebook. We should also be doing it on Instagram and Twitter as well. You were going to say something?
I was going to say not all of the bands, but pick a select few. I would mix, a couple of big ones, a couple of medium ones, and a couple of small ones. The small ones will almost always share the playlist just because they'll be stoked that somebody tagged them. And so the medium ones, they may or may not. The big ones, they may or may not. But always do a mix of large and small bands when you're tagging, and don't tag, like if you have 40 songs on there, don't tag 40 bands. That would just look weird. No, just pick 5 to 7.
Yeah. And a pro tip that I know also can work if you try it, especially with the smaller medium-sized bands, is if you DM them directly and you say, hey, you're on our playlist, and then many times they'll just share on their own. I know that works. I've seen bands do it. So it takes a few extra steps, might be a little bit awkward, but most people are stoked to find out that they're on a playlist, even if it's a small one. So They will
And they
generally,
miss their tags in their notifications. I missed post tags all the time.
yeah.
And I'm not in a band, I'm not famous, and I still miss them. So
Yeah, especially with the recent Facebook update. I don't know how you found it with the Kiaville, but with the C squared page, you can't see anything. It's fucking broken as shit. So you can't. Yeah. So if you're gonna do this, you should make sure that you're also sharing it on Instagram and Twitter as well. What else do we want to go over for organic growth, Corey?
I have one more tip.
Okay.
So this is primarily really good to use on Instagram, but when you get a new follower on Instagram, you can, and this has worked really well for one of the bands that I work with, DM them, thank them for following you, and say, don't forget to follow us on Spotify to hear all of our new music. More often than not, people will then go and follow you on Spotify. Obviously, include a link. It's gotten to the point where, you know, people will screenshot, say, oh, look, see, I'm following you, and send it to the band. So
Yep.
on your band page, when people follow you, I mean, it's probably like 1 to 5 messages a day, unless you're going really ham promoting your band. But you
Mhm.
can even just like copy and paste an image or a brief message that just says, hey, thank you for following us. Be sure to check us out on Spotify um, for all of our new music. And bam, that'll get you a ton of organic growth. And people will be stoked that the band thanked them, because everybody loves to talk to the bands that they love to listen to.
Yep. Now, before we go on to the last tip, are you able to explain what the difference is between listeners and followers? Because I know that's a common question.
So listeners are people who are actively and currently listening to your music.
Yeah.
Followers will get an alert when you release new music, but they might not actually be listening to you at this time.
Yeah.
So um, encouraging followers is good, because when you release something new, it'll pop up in their recommendations and things like that. But listeners are who is listening to you right now, not
Cool.
necessarily who is following you right now. So those numbers will almost always be disparate.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. And now the last thing is that, well, at least last, if I can think of, unless you have another one, is paying to get submitted to playlists. So you can use us to do that. There's many different services that you can use where basically you pay someone in order to submit you to playlists on Spotify. Now, the reason why you might want to do that instead of just doing it yourself is because it's labor intensive, takes a lot of time. And one of the worst things is a lot of the PR companies that charge to do this are just blatant scams. I don't know if you've noticed that, but there's a lot that will guarantee a certain amount. A lot of times the playlists are just like dinky. And to be honest, you're probably going to get a lot of smaller playlists anyways at first. But at the same time, a lot of these places where these PR places where they ask you to, where they charge you to do playlist pitching, they cost a lot of money, don't get very many results. But if you don't want to put the time and effort in yourself, search for someplace reputable that can help you with this. And yeah, and we do that. Gaia is one of the people that does that. Corey's quite good with doing it, but it's mainly Gaia that does it for us. And if you're interested in that, you can hit us up. What other tips do we have for Spotify, Corey?
I think that's a good number of tips there. A lot for people to actually work on. And just remember, the thing that will drive your Spotify is content.
Yeah.
Don't waste a shitload of money on ads trying to drive people to your Spotify. Spotify will grow so much better if you're putting out consistent content, you're consistently posting to social media. That's one thing we didn't touch on. If you are going to invest money trying to drive people to Spotify, it would be much better to invest in a PR campaign than it would be to invest in a Spotify ad or a Facebook ad trying to push people to your Spotify. Invest in a PR campaign, because that's what's going to get your name popping up into people's minds. The biggest thing that will trigger Spotify recommending your music is people searching for you.
Yeah.
That's the biggest trigger. So if you want to start showing up in like Spotify recommendations, the more people searching for you on Spotify, the more that's going to happen. And the more people to get more people searching for you on Spotify, a solid PR campaign is what's going to get you that, not ads. So if you're going to invest in Spotify ads, really you're not going to see a lot of results unless you're spending big, big money.
And it's
Or you're using, some sort of big distributor or something along those lines,
Yeah.
which at this stage, most of you won't be. So instead of investing, $500 or $1,000 into Spotify ads, invest that into a PR campaign, because not only will your Spotify grow, but everything else will too.
Yep. And last point about that is, like, if you do want to have a PR campaign, and like, let's say that you're in between releases, you could technically do one on Spotify too if you wanted to. Like, you just do a PR campaign about your Spotify. We could probably figure out something like that. There's all sorts of different things you can do. You can do a PR campaign on a new single, video, all sorts of different. But you got to get creative with things and figure it out. Any final words?
No, I am good on my end.
Well, all right. Party on, Corey.
Party on, Curtis.